Aloha and mahalo for joining me. I'm Janin and welcome to the Call to Create podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and listening to this podcast. I appreciate it because I know there's all kinds of things you could be doing right now, and I appreciate you listening. And I hope I am giving you great value. I would love your feedback. Please let me know. And today's topic is really interesting. I want to talk about if you're not looking at the wins and just looking at what's wrong in your life. Because today is a perfect example. Right now, I just want to scream because I recorded this whole episode, and then when I went to save it, for some reason there was an error when I was saving it, and then the whole thing, when I was trying to save it and type in the title, it disappeared. The whole recording just vanished and I couldn't find it. It's not on my computer, it's not in the recording software. So I could sit here and be really mad and only look at what's wrong. So this is like a perfect example that I'm talking about this because this is happening in real time. And I am so frustrated right now. I don't know if I should have just taken a minute to just, decompress and let it go. But I feel like I have to do it now. I have to talk about this because that's what I want to talk about is I can choose right now to be mad, to stay mad and look at everything, what's wrong with the software, get mad at the computer, get mad at the fact that I recorded almost 13 minutes of audio and then it disappears. But you know what? I'm gonna look at the wins because at least I can, I have this opportunity to re-record it and I can think about what I said in the first recording to see if I want to say the same thing or to change it or to add on to it. So I'm trying to look at the wins because it is a win if you really think about it. Because in life, there's always something that's going to happen that's going to be wrong and you're going to get mad. But I wanted to talk about this subject about not looking at the wins and just looking at the wrongs because I had this wonderful conversation with my best friend and I thought this is perfect. I told her, I said, I'm going to record a podcast episode about this topic because we were talking about how in our own personal lives, we have been looking at just what's wrong in a lot of things that are going on and have been happening. And we don't look or talk a lot about the wins as much as I think would be good for us. I mean, we do talk about both, but I think maybe if we just talked more about the wins, that would help us feel a lot better about ourselves and feel more confident that we can learn and grow as people. But sometimes it's so easy to just talk about what's wrong in your life and all the things that are happening. And it's easy to talk about all the wrongs and all the ugliness that's going on in the world too, because you hear it all the time. It's on the news all the time. It's on the radio all the time. It's on social media. And it's so easy to get sucked into that and just focus on all the wrong things. And then you start to think about you and what's wrong in your life, and then it makes you feel bad about yourself, and it makes it really, really hard to improve yourself and improve your life and how you do things because that's just a lot about how the world is going right now. Everything's focused on the negative. But if you take the time to look at the wins, look at your wins, you'll come to find out that your wins are actually, you've had more wins than you've had wrong. And if you take the time to write it out, you gotta be aware of what's going on and write it all down, write it out, and just reflect on all the things that you've done good in your life. You'll come to find out that and you got to look at the wrong things, and maybe if you did bad things or you made bad choices or you'll come to find out that you actually have done a lot more good and you've had a lot more wins. And I know because I try to reflect on my life as much as possible. And then I realized as my best friend and I were having this conversation that there's certain things in my life that I only focus on what's wrong. And there are a lot of other things in my life that I only focus on the wins. And so is it balance? I don't know. Some days I think it's different. Some days, I maybe I'm tired and I'm only focusing on the fact that I'm tired or what went wrong that day or that morning. But you will always find what you're looking for too. Like I've made a podcast episode about this, is that if you're looking for the wins, you will find it. And if you're only taking the time to look at what's wrong in your life or in the world, you will find that too, because it's all over the place and you see it. And that can be really depressing. So turn off the news. Don't watch any of that ugliness, because when you watch the news, which I don't really recommend, you'll have like a 30-minute news segment, and then only the last 2 minutes of it, they'll have a story about somebody doing something good. And the rest of the 25 minutes is really awful commercials. And then they talk about all the bad things that are happening in the state or the country or around the world. So it can be really depressing, and it can also make you question a lot of things about yourself and question life. But we have to remember that God created us and he created this world. So because God created all of this, he also made it so that there's always more good and more wins than there are what's wrong. And good will always win out every single time. So I want you to remember that. But take this time for yourself. Do some reflection. Get your fancy notebook. I like a fancy notebook that I talk about. Make it pretty. Even if you're not into fancy notebooks, just get out something and write it all out. Reflect on your life. Write down, maybe have 2 columns. One column can be all your wins and the other column can be what you feel you've done wrong. And if you take the time, I'm sure you'll find that you've done way more good and you've had more wins. And if you're not sure, then ask someone. Like if you have a best friend, ask your best friend. They're honest. Sometimes it's not good to ask immediate family members because they can kind of be brutal sometimes. Sometimes they only see the negative and they don't pay attention to the positive. So be careful who you ask, okay? Just be very careful. But I want you to take this time for yourself, because when you focus on your wins, it's easy to feel confident, and it's easier to know that you can overcome all the things that you struggle with. It may take time. It may take your whole lifetime and beyond. But when you make that effort to improve yourself and to try and overcome your weaknesses and the things that maybe are not right in your life, then you gain that confidence to move forward and feel good about yourself. We have to have trials and struggles. Remember, I talk about this all the time in my episodes, because that's the only way that you can learn and grow and become a better human being, is when you have struggles and trials and you go through hard things. And I know this for sure because I've gone through a lot of hard things and I've hated every minute of it. But then at the end, if I've come out of it, or the trial is done, I always feel like, oh, wow, I really learned a lot, or this is what I've learned about myself, or this is what I've learned about life and humanity. And I've also learned about how strong I am and, what I've done to overcome it and deal with it. And it makes you a more empathetic person too, especially when you have struggles and trials and someone else mentions that too. You can be empathetic to someone else. So it's always a win-win situation when you have these trials and things that go wrong, but you've worked to overcome it and go through it, and then it becomes a win. And so I want you to have these wins. And I want you to focus on them too, because, like I said, it's so easy to get into the negative, but try not to go there because you don't want it to just suck the life out of you. And that's what it will do if that's all you focus on. Because you only have control of what you do, what you say, how you behave, how you treat people. You have no control over anything else that happens in your life and in the world. So remember that. Take this time out for yourself because, as you go through this journey in life, make it so that you pay attention to what's right. And people will start to appreciate that too, especially the people that are around you and people that you work with and live with. And your relationships become better. And I want to let you know and remind you that I do offer personal coaching. So if you are interested, I want you to send me an email. Send it to aloha@janetjohnston.com. Let's work together. I'm here to help you. We can dive deep into your challenges, your struggles, and work on goals that you have. I'm here. I love personal coaching, and I know that with personal coaching, you can get farther ahead faster, and it's good to have someone help walk you through and hold your hand as you work through things in your life and as you struggle to get an understanding of what's happening. Because, we're looking from the inside out. We're not looking at ourselves from the outside in. So it's good to have someone who can reflect back as far as what's happening and someone to hold your hand. And I love helping people with personal coaching because it just makes you feel like you don't have to do this alone. And I always include God in all that I do and in my coaching. So when you're ready, let's get started. Send me an email and I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting for that email. Remember, you have worth and value. So do all of these things that can help you grow as a person. Because then when you grow as a person, you'll have more success in all the other areas of your life. And we all want success. We all want success in our life, and sometimes there's specific things we want success in. But you can do it. I can help you. And remember, you have value. You have worth. And I appreciate you being here. And I feel so much better now that I've re-recorded this whole podcast episode. I've let my frustration go. I think just talking it out and restating all the things that I've said really helped me feel better and not focus on the fact that the first recording disappeared. I feel so much better now, and I count that as a win. And thank you again. And please share this podcast with anyone who you know would get great value out of listening to it, especially if you know that they're thinking about starting their own business. Or even if they're not, there's still great value that I share in each episode that can bring value to women, even if they aren't interested in starting their own business. And please rate and review this podcast. I would appreciate it. And thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. Aloha.